What's up, Falcons fans, and welcome to episode 15 of Talking Birdie, an Atlanta Falcons podcast powered by sportstalkatl.com. I am your host, Matt Carley. You can find me on Twitter at Matt Carley, Carley spelled Karolly. I'm joined as usual by my two co-hosts from the Sports Talk ATL team, Jake Gordon. You can find him on Twitter at Can't Guard Jake, a great Twitter name for many reasons, but even more so lately, given the drama surrounding slant boy Michael Thomas and New Orleans Saints. We've got Alex Lord as well. You can find him on Twitter at Go Sports Talk. Go spelled Geaux, not to be confused with a Saints fan. He is a noted LSU alum, so just showing out for the Go Tigers. And on last week's episode, we talked about week one, Falcons training camp, which marks the official start of the 2021 season. We had a great guest with us, Scott Bair, new managing editor of AtlantaFalcons.com, new to the Atlanta beat. And it was a great interview. You can definitely see Scott's beat writing roots, having covered, the Bay Area teams, showing through. And, I noted last week I could listen to him talk about football all night, and hopefully we have him on the show again. It was a great interview, a great show. If you haven't checked it out, please do so. But we're going to continue this train moving. We're gonna recap week 2 of Falcons training camp. We got another great guest with us. Part of week 2 of training camp was, the annual open practice and scrimmage from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Our guest was there to take it all in. This man needs no introduction. If you've been on Falcons Twitter, you know who he is. He is entering year 11 covering the Falcons. So, Jake, Alex, you guys are probably still in diapers when he first started. Just kidding, guys. But he's been covering the team a long time for the Falcoholic, writer, editor, co-host of their official podcast. You may not know, if you're on Falcons Twitter, you should know this, but he is also the unofficial president of the Tequila Drinking Club of Falcons fans worldwide. He's David Walker. We know him as DW. DW, it's been a minute since we've gotten together to talk Falcons football, but it's great to have you on this show for the first time. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's good to be here. And I think I've graduated to vodka for my alcohol of choice these days, but I still have a special place in my heart for tequila.
All right. Well, I can certainly take that mantle over if you're okay, because I'm a big tequila guy. So, all right. Officially, the torch has been passed. I am now the unofficial tequila president of Falcons fans worldwide. But it's great to have you, DW. And, as I said, week 2, Falcons training camp wraps up this week as the Falcons prepare for their first preseason game this Friday against the Tennessee Titans, maybe known as the Julio revenge game. We'll see how much we see of Julio and what that does to us as fans, seeing him on the opposite sidelines. But I want to start, and I've noted this a couple times already on the show. I think the biggest development thus far out of training camp has been the right tackle situation, because it's certainly not what we expected. I think going in, we thought, former first round pick Caleb McGarry would lock that position down, and he certainly still can. But he started camp on the PUP along with Matt Gano. Certainly, I don't know if we'll ever know what McGarry's situation was. I mean, me personally, I'm suspecting it has something to do with the heart, his pre-existing heart condition. But again, don't want to speculate too much on that. So with McGarry and Gano on PUP, that left Jalen Mayfield, Falcons' 3rd round pick, to transition back to his college position of right tackle after, the initial plan, it sounded like, was for him to get run at left guard and compete, with the likes of Josh Andrews and Drew Dalman and others. Now, after, we recorded last week's show on Tuesday, last Friday, news came out that Mayfield's now running with the 2s, and Willie Beavers. Yes, Willie Beavers. I'm like, who's Willie Beavers? Former 4th round pick of the Vikings in 2016, only lasted 1 year there, has been a journeyman the rest of his career, bouncing around many teams. He is now listed with the 1s on the latest depth chart, the official depth chart, and I use that word very loosely, that came out today, which we'll talk also about. He's listed with the 1s at right tackle. So I want to ask you first, DW, since his first time playing with the first team was at that open practice on Saturday, which you were in attendance for. How did he look? Because the word is he ascended to the first team because he's won all of his reps and all of his one-on-ones. Did that hold through when he was the starting right tackle in this open scrimmage? And then my next follow-up question would be, is it time to hit the panic button at all at right tackle?
So as for the scrimmage, obviously take it with a grain of salt. He's going up against the Falcons pass rush, which is not going to be an intimidating unit, even with Dante Fowler back. I mean, he held up well. Obviously, it wasn't full speed. We're going to see a lot more come Friday once these guys get a lot more in-game reps and not just practicing against one another. It's even with them being in pads, doing 11 on 11. It's really hard to make that assessment. He looked fine from what I could tell. The offense was able to do what they wanted to do. They had to, they seemed to be the unit that was having more success on that Saturday practice. As for the panic button, I started off the offseason by saying I felt like right tackle might be more of a competition than people anticipated. I felt like last year McGarry got better, but he was way inconsistent. He would have a game where he was solid and then follow it up by becoming Cameron Jordan's nephew, just getting completely devastated. And that's the problem is he's going to face, with Jake Matthews on the left side, whoever's at right tackle is going to face the best pass rusher. And for him to be up and down week to week is problematic. At first, I thought Gono was going to challenge him. But at this point, I don't know that we can pencil him in. I think he'll get every shot to earn that spot back. I am not a believer that Willie Beavers is the long-term answer at right tackle, so don't get me wrong there. And I think Jalen Mayfield, expecting a rookie to come in and win that position outright as a mid-rounder is probably a little bit foolhardy. But I wouldn't hit the panic button just yet, but it is a position I'm watching because, we all sort of went into this season thinking there was just two positions to fill on the offensive line. And realistically, we could see an offensive line that has 3 brand new starters in 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the word on the street lately is, and that other position that you're referencing is center. Word on the street is Tennessee is locking that down where it's less and less of a competition. And that was actually one for me personally I was less concerned with was center. And now right tackle bumps to the forefront because tackles, you're going up against some of the best pass rushers. And as you pointed out, DW, I mean, I agree. With Jake Matthews on the left, teams are going to move a lot of their best guys to the right-hand side. Guys, I'll let you chime in. Where's your concern level at? I still think McGarry's eventually going to lock it down, and I think this maybe is no different than Dante Fowler, where Smith has been less committal to Fowler even being the number one guy, even though I think we all expect him to. But yeah, what do you guys feel, Alex? I'll let you get in there.
I think you nailed it right there. Saying Fowler has to earn his reps is just just playing a little hardball and being a hardo. He's going to start. I mean, who are we kidding? And I like what David said that, Willie Beavers has been beating everybody that the coaches have put in front of him, but who's in front of him really? And especially with Fowler being out, there's really been nobody. Not nobody. These guys are professional football players, but on their level, they're, not that impressive. So even with, the best line that you could put out there in your head. So let's say it's Josh Andrews at left guard or Drew Dahlman at left guard or even Jalen Mayfield at left guard and then Caleb McGarry at right guard. It's still not a formidable group. It's, in my opinion, it's not overly reassuring to have any of those guys there, though I do expect McGarry to take that right tackle spot back. And I think it's very similar to the Fowler situation where he's just earning his reps. And I agree with David that he was very inconsistent, but I'm a little higher on McGarry's improvements. I feel as if it could be exponential in year 3. A lot of tackles take that year 2 to 3, 3 to 4 is a lot bigger than 1 to 2. So I think that it's got to be McGarry's to lose. I don't know about Gano because obviously we don't have the details on the injuries, but I mean, it's still a concerning group for me personally. Hopefully, a little bit of scheme and the fact that Lee Smith is basically his sixth offensive lineman will help. But just personally, I'm a tad concerned.
Jake, anything you want to add?
Yeah, Willie Beavers, all time literally translates to name. I won't go any further on that, but I'm a little more concerned that Jalen Mayfield is not listed at left guard on the depth chart. I don't know about his ability to hold up at right tackle. I'm not an NFL coach. They see a lot more than I see. But I trust. We talk about Dean Pease and the defense being a sum of all the parts instead of having just elite pieces. And I trust Dwayne Ledford to do the same thing with the offensive line if they are successful. And if not, a lot of guys are potentially going to be replaced this offseason.
Yeah.
And part of me wonders, too, with Beavers getting these looks at first team is, are they preparing for who their swing guys are? And I think and we'll get into it a little bit, maybe that's what they're doing with Dahlman, getting those reps at left guard is, they want to cross train him. They know what he can do at center. So they're training him to be that swing interior guy, and maybe that's the role Beavers is going to play, and maybe better suited to play that than Mayfield.
For our listeners, Beavers has been on more teams than years in the NFL. So, if this guy is even our third tackle, we are in trouble. Really?
Yeah. I mean, you could say similar things, I think, that we say about Josh Andrews and have said about Josh Andrews on this podcast. Andrews has been on a lot of teams as well, and it's scary that if the season started tomorrow, he's the starting left guard. But let's move on. We don't want to depress the audience too much here. There's a good bit of news I think I want to talk about, and I want to talk about that now, and it seems to be the transition of Foy Oluokun to the Mike linebacker position and Deion Jones to the Will linebacker position. Arthur Smith subtly kind of pointed it out in one of the pressers that, Oluokun's taking to that Mike linebacker role, and it's a role that I've been pushing on Dan Quinn for the last couple of years, and I guess stubbornness kind of got in the way, and, he drafted Deion to be the Mike, and again, it just seemed very obvious that Deion's a natural Will linebacker guy you want to keep free, keep flowing to the football, whereas Mike, they take on more blockers. DW, I want to ask you and Jake too, because Jake, you were at practice, and I know the views aren't that great, but you were there on Thursday. Did you happen to notice, well, I guess you might not in practice, but at the scrimmage, DW, did you see a green dot at all on any of these guys' helmets or Oluokun's helmet? Was it, see that?
No, it was difficult to see, but
okay.
I think positionally they were lined up with him at the mic, so that would hold up.
Yeah, and I guess are we all in agreement that that's probably the best suited position for both of those guys, right? It's obvious, right?
Yeah,
right.
And that's part of the reason I think we're so bullish on this coaching staff is because they know. Dean Pease has been around a long time. Most of the defensive coaching staff is a veteran unit. I think they know how to best use these players, and I think we're getting an early sign that that's the case with Oluokun transitioning to the Mike and Deion transitioning to the Will. So again, just a small change, but one that could have a definite tangible impact on this unit. So again, something to note, something to continue to watch, but certainly good news from camp. Now, again, switching a little bit to the bad news, a couple players have been placed on IR. And unfortunately, again, a guy that has shown promise and potential and would have liked to seen him, albeit in a limited role. But Jaden Graham injured, presumably his knee, making a cut on the field and was placed on IR. We've also had Sterling Hoffrichter, Jeff Bidet, and Deidre Sanat recently was cut, waived, and reverted back to IR. So certainly some spots, with Sanat, we don't know. He was on the roster bubble. We don't know if there's really a spot there. But I would say definitely with Graham, for me anyways, I was almost putting his name in pen. We know how much Arthur Smith loves tight ends. I was definitely expecting them to carry 4. Now that's up in the air, but I want to ask you guys, and we'll go around. Jake, I'll let you start, but who do you think stands the most to gain from this open roster spot with Graham going on IR?
I'm gonna go with probably a wrong answer, but I'm gonna put myself out there a little bit. I'm gonna say a running back. I think they could carry an extra running back. You talk about Javian Hawkins, who's looked good. By the way, Arthur Smith listed him 7th on the depth chart to get under his skin a little bit. I saw that. Caleb Huntley has looked pretty good. Deontay Foreman, they brought him in. They put him at 5th on the depth chart. I was a little surprised by that. But yeah, I'm going to go on a little bit of a limb. I'm going to say they could carry an extra running back. I don't know if that's going to happen, but who knows?
Yeah, I'm a
Alex,
big
I'll let you
Parker
go.
Hesse guy. Or I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Is it Hesse?
That's how I would say it.
Yeah. Basically, only because so I thought Jaden Graham, even before he was hurt, was definitely competing. He definitely has higher upside because of that receiving ability. But the other tight ends on the roster are better blockers. And I've said multiple times on the podcast that I think that, without somebody behind Lee Smith, it could be concerning. And that's kind of just how I see it. 2 receivers, 2 blocking-ish tight ends. Plus, he's got that connection to Tennessee. So that's the inside track, I'm going to say. But, it really could be anybody. It could even be a defender. Who really knows? The depth charts have just made me scatterbrained. And it's not because I don't know not to overreact to these sort of things. I know that. It's inconsistent. So Jake mentioned Davian Hawkins being the 7th running back, but Dante Foreman's the 4th. Keith Smith, what is ahead of him, but fullback. But then they put Dante Fowler back and Caleb McGarry back, who have both missed practice. Dante Foreman just got here. Javian Hawkins has been here the whole camp. So if you're going to base it on who's been here, or all rookies are at the bottom no matter what, and then we'll go from who's been here in camp above them. I mean, the way they configured this depth chart is just making my brain hurt. I mean, I it's ridiculous, man.
I mean, you're certainly not wrong that there is inconsistencies. Some of the spots on there certainly have aligned with the practice reports. Notably, I think everyone's got their eyes on Richie Grant, the 2nd round pick, and he's placed 3rd, but there have been a lot of reports that said he started with the 3rd team and he's now just slowly transitioning to 2nd team, which I do want to touch on a little bit more. But then, yeah, you're right. I mean, you got Davian Hawkins 7th, which just seems way too low, especially because Dante Foreman just got into the building. The one that really jumped out to me, and I said this in our group chat, is Ade Ogundeji. I mean, for a guy that's again. It's preseason. Let's pump the brakes. But for a guy that's been getting a lot of 1st team run, and for me, he's been the most surprising because I didn't have any expectations for him. But for him to get the 1st team reps and then he's 4th string, make it make sense.
I think that's a little bit of Arthur Smith seeing Ogundeji and seeing him in practice and saying, you know what, you're good, but I want you to be great. I want you to dig down and really.
And that's the notable takeaway, I think, is that an Arthur Smith coach team, he's not going to give you anything. He's going to make you earn it. And even when you've earned reps, he's going to make you earn more reps by, I guess, fueling your fire. So, but to ask you the same question.
Real quick. Do you think it's that where he's trying to get the most out of you guys, or it's literally it means nothing and we're just overreacting? Do you think
is he playing mind games with the fan base? I mean, maybe
I don't think it's the mind games. I think he was just like, it doesn't matter, Terry. It doesn't matter.
Just put any names you want down.
Just put them all in.
We'll see. I mean, that's one of the things to watch for, I guess, on Friday is if any of this stuff translates. But DW, I want to get your thoughts. Based on the Jaden Graham news, who do you think stands the most to gain?
I do think it'll be a tight end. Parker Hesse seems like the most logical because of the experience in Tennessee. But the name that was popping up a lot on Saturday and the one I'm going to watch on Friday, even though he was with the threes, he was picking up a lot of passes from Fabio Franks. And that was John Rain. And I think the thing to keep in mind about Rain, and I sort of have him pegged as someone that maybe is going to be a roster potential next year. But keep an eye on him because he plays fullback and tight end. He seemed to have good hands. He caught several passes during the practice. And he's actually showing something on the field. So keep an eye on John Rain. He could be a sleeper candidate with what he's done so far at camp.
Yeah, Rain was someone. I haven't watched much Northwestern tape. I definitely watched Rashawn Slater because, I mean, it was definitely worth the viewing. But Rain was someone that stood out in that Big Ten title game against Ohio State. Limited passing attack that Northwestern had, but he was kind of the focal point. So certainly something to watch. DW, you have to explain, though, to our viewers that don't know the whole Fabio and was it Macaroon? Can you explain the origin and what that is, who they are, if people were very confused by that?
To be honest, I'm just tired of spelling Felipe. And
okay.
So I just decided to go with Fabio Franks, and
completely fair.
For McCarron, my iPhone kept autocorrecting to Macaroon. So I just decided that's going to stick. So it's now
running with it.
Fabio and Macaroon are our backup.
I saw that has been picking up traction though. It's catching steam. So good on you for that.
Can we all just agree that any tight end below like 4th on the depth chart, he's just Alex Gray? We'll just call him Alex Gray.
It's a great generic name. So yeah, I'm with that.
Mike Person.
There you go. All right. Let's talk some competitions. I touched on it a little bit earlier. Again, left guard. It's always on my brain right now when we're dealing with the Falcons, and Drew Dahlman seems to enter into this competition, but I did also note that maybe they're just doing it to prepare him for his swing interior offensive line duties. DW, I got to ask you, do you think he can surpass Andrews? Do you think we're really going to be stuck with Andrews starting week 1? What are your thoughts on left guard?
I think this is a position where we could see something similar to 2015, where the Falcons were waiting out to see what happened with some veterans getting cut from other teams. For those that don't remember, 2015, I think it was after the last preseason game, was when the Falcons went out and made a trade for Andy Levitri, who ended up being a very solid starter at left guard for several years. And honestly, I don't have a ton of confidence in Andrews. And to be blunt, I don't think that the best move is to start 2 young players in the middle of the offensive line. So if you're going to start Matt Hennessy, who is a functional rookie because of the screwed up 2020 season they had, I don't think it's a great move to put another rookie next to him on the left side. So I do think you want a veteran presence in there next to Hennessy to help him settle in and feel better for his first year starting, assuming he's the center. And I think that's where it makes sense. I think you have to go out and look at veteran options. And usually you want to wait to see who falls out of camp, who falls out of the preseason, which is why I don't think they've made any moves up to this point. But it would not shock me at all if we see another move like what we did for Andy Levitri several years ago.
Yeah, I'm ecstatic you brought that up because that's the one thing I'm clinging to. I did throw out Andrew Norwell's name, who very similar track record to Levitri, and he's been a guy that the Jags have floated around. The only issue around that is just salary cap, and one point to talk about with those players going on IR is they're going to count on the salary cap, and I estimated it's about like 2.8 million of salary cap space. Unfortunately, for Sanat, for Graham, for Hofrichter, and Bidet taken up on the salary cap. So we're already dipping into the emergency fund, that $4 to $5 million fund, very early on in the season. And again, it's becoming more and more like they're going to have no choice but to restructure Grady Jarrett, do something with his contract, because that's really the only one where they can create a sizable amount of space. And that's the only way I think they're going to be able to pull off something like that. Unless, again, we're talking a cut and it's a player that you can maybe get for veteran minimum. I don't know any names at the top of my head that would fit that bill, but that's certainly, again, what I'm hoping for. But, we shall see. Guys, anything you want to add? Do you think any opinions change with left guard?
I don't know what happened to Jalen Mayfield. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Arthur Smith said, basically they're confident in the development. And things change, and football is very dynamic and a fluid game. I get all that. And the injury to Matt Gano is worrisome. I guess that's why they brought Jason Spriggs in. So there I thought, it's fine. At least until McGarry comes back, there's some people to rotate in. Let's get Mayfield back to getting as many reps at left guard as is humanly possible. over repetition. Give them the ones and the twos. I mean, I think that Josh Andrews is probably a little bit better than Jalen Mayfield right now because of that veteran presence that David said. But I think that they're just about the same in the run game. And you can't be worse than Andrews in pass sets. You really can't. So in my mind, if you're going to start, equal players, start, essentially, if they're not going to go the veteran route where they acquire somebody from a different team, if they're, we're in-house candidates only, I don't know how you can't give it to Mayfield and just be okay with the rough transition he's certainly going to have and hope he grows from it. I mean,
yeah.
I don't
DW
know.
does make a great point though, as far as starting two young guys, and Hennessy is it's another great point too. He is a functional rookie because he didn't have the level of off season that you're accustomed to having. So there would still be some concern and worry, but at the same time, I get what you're saying. If that is the plan in the future, let him take those bumps, I guess, early, because it'll pay off in the long run. Jake, anything you want to?
Yeah, I agree with Alex. Maybe I would push back a little more on that if I thought there could be something there at right tackle, but I just don't see Jalen Mayfield as a right tackle. So I say get him in there now, let him take his lumps. But DW is right. It's tough to play a bunch of young guys there, but Josh Andrews isn't exactly yeah.
And I don't think we should write it off yet. We still got a month here. We still got 3 preseason games. I probably wouldn't count on seeing Mayfield at left guard in the first one, but certainly the second one, it's a possibility. Because again, if you look at the depth chart, as far as left guard, they got 3 names there: Josh Andrews, Sam Jones, Ryan Nazeal. Ryan Nazeal was someone that I pegged early on as maybe an undrafted guy to watch. Started a lot of games at App State, a college where Dwayne Ledford does have some connection to, but virtually heard nothing from Nazeal, and he stands as the third left guard. So fighting an uphill battle, maybe a practice squad candidate. But yeah, again, I wouldn't write off Mayfield at left guard because it seems a little odd. Like, I get plans changed because of all the injuries at right tackle, but now you got McGarry coming back. Beavers, I guess, has looked good. Spriggs is a possibility, although I didn't even realize he's dealing with an injury that is going to have him, not practicing every day. So it's not great, folks. It's not a great situation. It's certainly the number one thing I think to keep an eye on, because Matt Ryan has taken enough abuse both on Twitter and on the field.
I want to give a positive note on the offensive line, though. Some people might not remember, but Jake Matthews is a very respectable guy in offensive line rooms. He's one of the most consistent guys in the league that never gets talked about. And he said when they first all got together how impressed he was with Matt Hennessy, specifically his communication, which is so important for a center. So to DW's point about Matt Hennessy, it maybe he could step into a role. I'm trying to talk myself into any other combination other than Josh Andrews right there. I just don't understand it.
I mean, Matt Hennessy, he had a rough year last year, but his first start was against Chris Jones, who's arguably the best interior defender in the entire NFL. And he didn't have an offseason, like a real offseason. So I'm not writing him off just yet.
Yeah, I mean, he played the Super Bowl participants. They didn't have Vita Vea then, but Ndamukong Suh is still no slouch. So facing Chris Jones and Sue in your first 2 games, you're not going to look the greatest. And again, I was very high on Hennessy. Hennessy was my favorite pick of the 2020 class. And that's why I've never really been concerned. I mean, we'll see that things change based on level of performance going forward, but I'm completely good with him, and hearing those words that Jake Matthews had to say, I think that holds a lot of weight. So
he was never supposed to be a plug and play guy. He was supposed to learn under Alex Mack. That
was the whole plan.
Last year.
Yep. And so hopefully, and that's why I was frustrated with him playing some left guard, because I wanted him to focus on his development center, because I knew that would mean more in the future. And I'm hoping, that they transition him back later towards the season, that he soaked up as much as he could from the legend, and it serves him well this year. But
to that point, Hennessy has basically been unchallenged throughout camp for that first team spot. So
Yeah.
At this point, it looks like he has it locked up. A lot of football left before we get to that first game, but to that point, it does look like he is going to be the starter. I'll be shocked at this point if it's not Hennessy. So,
well, and that's what you want to see too, because early on we had thought maybe Dahlman, it's the draft pick of this regime. Maybe he's got the edge, but no, Hennessy's held him off, and it's early, but that's what you want to hear in a competition like that. Speaking of competitions, want to get to a new one. We talked about, I think his name's Deontay Foreman. I was trying to dig up some Texas stuff. I'm not entirely sure on that, but I know the college football announcers were calling him Deontay. So Deontay Foreman was signed. We were talking about this a little bit last week because we weren't sure if the signing would come to fruition, but it did. It's a little curious, especially since what we've heard of Quadri Allison has been good, and we thought maybe this is the year Quadri Allison finally gets some run and we get to see and, maybe get some return on investment from that pick. But the way I look at it is like, this is, again, and this has become a theme maybe, they're not going to give jobs to anybody for the most part. You're going to have to earn it. And for me, I think this is having Quadri Allison earn that RB2 or RB2B, I guess, in a way, because, I do think Cordell Patterson's going to see a lot of time. So really it's backing up as the bell cow. But that's how I look at this. So I think it's between Foreman and Allison. How do you guys view this, DW?
Well,
what do you think?
I think they had some spots open. If you look at Foreman's career stats, he's like Quadri Allison 2.0. Completely just a non-factor for most of his time. Actually, his best season was his rookie year, 2017, with the Texans. I don't know that this is going to move the needle dramatically. We'll see. Again, I think running back is one of the hardest positions to sort of get a feel for until you see them actually start hitting guys and getting hit by guys. You see them running in shorts and then everyone looks impressive, right? I'll get out there and run the shorts and look impressive. But I think Friday we'll probably get a good look at all of these guys. And honestly, I'll be shocked if Foreman pushes one of these guys off. And I think, when we're talking about Huntley and Hawkins sort of being behind him now, I do think this is partly Arthur Smith trying to light a fire under these guys and saying, hey, you may have had one good day in camp, and that means nothing to me. Like your one good day in camp, your one nice run, your one nice catch is meaningless. I want to see you do it in the game. You have to do it repeatedly, and you have to earn your spot on the roster. And I think that's the message that he's been preaching the entire time. And I think the depth chart is more an indication of the sort of the continuation of that. I mean, he even has Kyle Pitts as a backup at this point, right?
Yeah.
He's got Kyle Pitts listed behind Hayden Hurst. So I think the message he's sending is pretty clear: is you're going to earn your spot on this roster. So Foreman probably is getting the nod simply because he has 3 years in the league. I don't think that it's an indication that they think he is going to surpass any of these guys. But I'm glad we have another body in there to push these guys, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah,
well, I think another thing.
Let me say this real quick. I think that's exactly right. That prior to what you said about Arthur Smith's strategy is, and I think Smith himself acknowledged this fact that these running backs can't separate themselves whatsoever from the pack until you get into live games. And that's going to be this Friday. I have a piece going out tomorrow on this exactly that. It'll be fun to watch throughout preseason because, Foy and Dion are not headhunting these guys like they would be opponents' running backs. I mean, the main goal, again, I say it over and over, is to get through camp healthy. So I think that Friday will be important, and every single preseason game after that will be important. And I think that all of those guys you mentioned behind Patterson and Davis will get, all of the carries pretty much. Mm-hmm. Every single one. Yeah. I'm all about that.
Yeah. Well, and one thing to add, sorry, is and it's not sexy. No one wants to pay attention to it. But for that last running back spot, you have to look at what their contribution is going to be on special teams.
Yeah, no, great point.
you go back to 2016, and we had some really dynamic running backs in the offseason, and it was Teron Ward who made the roster. And he made it in part because he was a contributor on special teams. So Huntley, Foreman, Hawkins, obviously we want to see how they run. They have to be able to do that. But if there's something that's going to differentiate them, it's going to be special teams.
Yeah, and what I was going to add was, I mean, you mentioned, adding another body, and they had a roster spot. I don't think Mike Davis is going to get a lot of run in the preseason. They said he's basically the RB1. He's a veteran. You want to keep him fresh. Cordero Patterson's been around even longer. I don't think he's going to get a lot of run. You want to keep him healthy. He's going to be a valuable gadget piece in the offense. So that leaves you with 4 running backs then. 4 quarters, you can have a running back go each quarter and have, that be the evaluation to separate themselves maybe as that, backup bell cow. Hawkins isn't so much a bell cow, but he brings a different element to the game. And, you noted special teams. Maybe he can provide something there on special teams with his speed as a gunner. So, I think that's a big reason too why Foreman's being brought in is because what you're going to get with Davis and Patterson. Their roster spots are fairly safe, but beyond that, you want to push some of these other guys, the undrafted guys, and obviously Allison, who hasn't had much NFL experience to speak of. So again, that'll be something to watch. Definitely in preseason game 1 and going forward. You had a thought, DW, and I want to pull that thought also with Richie Grant. You mentioned how Arthur Smith doesn't want to build these guys up too high. And I think we saw a moment last week in training camp where Richie Grant got pretty high. He had a nice pass breakup, I believe, on Kyle Pitts. Mm-hmm. And, in Smith's words, he was feeling himself. But then Smith was he pointed out that he got beat on that same exact play later in practice. So, again, it's a theme. He's not going to build these guys up. He's going to make them earn it, make them, work for it. And I think that's what's contributed to Grant having a slow climb up the depth chart. Are we at all concerned that he's third? Do we eventually think, again, like we've talked about, he's going to be that third safety and going to continue to mix in? Jake, I'll let you start. What's your concern levels at with Grant being listed third and not getting a lot of time with the 1s and 2s yet?
Yeah, I would say 0. I said from the beginning I thought at worst he was going to be running with the 2s just because they were going to start Eric Harris and Deron Harmon. I think it may be a little bit of an attempt to humble him. I don't know. I'm not too close to this situation, but the talent's there. I mean, we're still in camp. The guy's a rookie. I'm not concerned at all. I think he's going to see the field plenty, and that I have no doubt about that. He's going to get playing time, especially during the preseason. And I think he's going to pop. Well, I hope he pops, but I think he's going to pop.
Anything else people want to add? I mean, they probably agree on that, right? And again, even if he's not, getting a lot of playing time early, that's why you bring in 2 veterans like Deron Harmon, played a lot of football, like Eric Harris. I mean, they prioritize Eric Harris, and I kept saying, he's going to make an impact early on as they transition and turn over the safety room. So they got 2 veterans that I think they feel pretty confident in. Bringing on Grant slowly is not the end of the world. So again, don't panic. I'd put the panic level at 1, and probably that's even too high. You just want to see him flash and continue to develop. And because this scheme's, it's a multiple scheme. So there's a lot of assignments, especially from the safety position, because they're, rotating down the box and playing up high. And so, it's not going to come easy, and it's not going to come right away. And so, anything else we want to add there?
Yeah, Grant even commented on, and obviously this was Fontenot's plan. Grant commented on how he's, accelerated the process of learning through Harris and Harmon.
Right.
I have such a fascination with Grant. I think, I didn't realize maybe the mental part wasn't going to be there, but I expected him to start day 1. And I think that by the season's end, he will be. But maybe to start, I think he'll be that first nickel back out. It'll be a big nickel look, but like I said, Grant's so dynamic that he really can act sort of like a corner in the slot there, where he can do a lot of the same things that Isaiah Oliver can do. He's just, mentally, maybe he's not all there. Physically, there's zero question about it. It's just going to take time, I think.
Yeah, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was noted that he was playing some nickel within the last day or two, which speaks to, a big nickel package where Grant would be on the field in place of Isaiah Oliver. So, yeah, I'm going to still hold on to my belief that I think this top 6 defensive backs that we're going to see on the field quite a bit is going to be AJ Terrell, Fabian Moreau, Isaiah Oliver at corner, and then, Duron Harmon, Eric Harris, and Richie Grant rounding out the safety group. I still think those are going to be the core 6 guys. It's nice to hear Jalen Hawkins, though. His development's coming along. He's showing out in camp and making some plays on the ball. I mean, that'll only improve their depth in case a guy does go down with an injury. But again, yeah, I think it's too early. Let's wait and see. Let's see how the preseason goes. And again, even if he's running with the third team, I know there's going to be overreactions probably if he's running with the third team in preseason here. Although, again, I don't know how much the Duron Harmon and Eric Harris are even going to play. So I guess it's going to look like the second team, but, effectively it's going to be the third. So don't panic. Trust the process, as they say. I wouldn't hit the panic button with Richie Grant. One other topic, two players I want to talk about, they're rookies as well. Because, again, this team is going to be built on their draft classes, built on their rookies, especially given their salary cap position over the next couple of years. I touched on him a little bit. Adi Ogundeji, a guy who's impressed based on the reports, a guy we haven't heard too much of. And, DW, maybe you can shed some light on what you saw on Saturday, and Jake, you can do the same from Thursday. But Taquan Graham, again, a guy I didn't have many expectations for. Wasn't really on my radar. Certainly tested like a great athlete, which is a start. On the depth chart, he's behind Marlon Davidson at third string at that 3 tech, which is kind of what I expected all along. How much do we think? Who's impressed more? I guess that's the obvious answer. It's probably Ogundeji. But does that mean he's going to contribute the most in year one? Like, what do we think about those guys? DW, I'll turn it over to you first.
Yeah. Honestly, one of my podcasts, when I had Aaron Freeman on, we were talking about the defensive line, and we almost forgot Ogundeji at the time. And because I think in the back of my mind, at least, we were thinking this guy's going to be essentially one of the inactives for the entire season. He's probably not going to get in the games. With people like Brandon Copeland, Tuioti Mariner, ahead of him on the depth chart, he looked like one of the guys that was just going to fall off. The fact that he's been getting runs with the ones now is really kind of surprising. It's great. Don't get me wrong. And to be fair, he is beating out guys like Steven Means and Tuioti Mariner. So again, in a normal NFL defense, Tuioti Mariner and Means would be backups, not potential starters, right?
Yeah,
these would be rotational
to say
guys.
that though, because those are going to be our main contributors. So that's
exactly. So that's
scary,
like,
but yeah, you're absolutely right.
So Ogundeji is beating out backups. Temper it a little bit, but honestly, I think you mentioned it earlier. This is the first draft class for Fontenot and Smith. They're going to show them a little bit more love. This is going to be the draft class that they're anchoring the future of the franchise under, and they want these guys to be successful. So if they're going to start showing up in camp, I think they're going to get plenty of opportunities to prove it. Again, from the scrimmage I saw, simply because these guys were not able to tackle or bring anyone down, it was hard to tell. I will say I did see Ogundeji get into the backfield a couple times. So that was promising. But he is a name I'm definitely going to be paying attention to in these preseason games, because I think if he can continue to run with the ones and show something in the preseason, he may break my prediction of being an inactive for the entire season.
Yeah, I think with Ogundeji too, they brought Steven Means back, Jacob Tuioti Mariner back. They're veteran holdovers You know what to expect from them. But I think the full intention is always, to draft guys to leapfrog those veteran holdovers.
Mm-hmm.
And we might be seeing that a little bit with Ogundeji. Like the goal, he's a raw player out of Notre Dame, hasn't been playing the sport all that long. If he's ahead of the curve, ideally you want him. It's kind of like Jalen Mayfield when we were talking about a left guard. If it's close, you want those guys to be playing. Take your lumps early because it's only going to pay dividends later on. So maybe that's what we're seeing with Ogundeji. With Graham, it seems like there's more of a, there's more depth there, and that's why I think one of the strengths of this defense. And it's sometimes you gotta stop yourself and say there's strengths on this defense, but I do think the interior defensive line, there's some guys with potential there. I mean, obviously Grady Jarrett's an All-Pro, but people are forgetting about Marlon Davidson, second-round pick who, again, from a former regime, but still the talent of a second-round pick, been a 5-star his whole life. You got Kaminsky, who's shown flashes. His 3 years now. He's a supreme athlete, and those guys tend to pan out more than they don't. You got Tyler Davidson, a veteran. So there's a lot of guys there. All this to say, it's tough for Graham to see playing time, I think, and to make an impact. And maybe he's the guy that's more looked at as the red shirt than Ogundeji, where there's more of a clear path to playing time right now based on who's ahead of him on the depth chart. Anything you guys want to add, Jake, Alex, on Ogundeji? I mean,
yeah,
certainly he's listed fourth, but I think we're going to see a lot of him early on Friday.
Yeah, something I noticed on Thursday, which I'm the worst person to have go watch practice or something because I just watch the quarterbacks the whole time. Looking at Felipe Franks is throwing I can't help it. I used to play the position. I can't help it.
He had to put that in there. He had to put that in there. He used to play quarterback.
Look. That's my only reasonable explanation. What do you want me to say? I think he's cute. No. But anyways, the thing is with Taquan Graham, I'm not sure which one it is, but when I was watching the way Dean Pease conducts this defense, is you're not going to get the same look twice. You got a couple guys rotating in and doing different things. And, it was one of those things to where it was kind of hard for me to keep up at times at who was doing what, who was subbing in here, who was coming in here. And I like it that way because I feel like if I can't understand it, there's probably a lot of NFL players that may not be able to understand it as well. Not saying that I can understand defenses to the level that they do, but you get the point. But I think Taquan Graham, I think he's going to have a bit of a role, especially with Sanat on the shelf for now. I think it's just going to be a rotation. There's going to be a revolving door. I think it'll be the same way at edge. When we're talking about the front seven, those two linebacker positions with Dion and Foye, and even Michael Walker coming in, the rest is going to be a revolving door. I think he'll still see some playing time.
Yeah, I think you're right. The one thing I will say, and I noticed this a lot I only watched a few games of Ogundeji at Notre Dame, but I watched a couple, and against the run, he was so impressive. I mean, yes, we want him to be able to rush the passer. That's where the money is. People don't get paid to stop the run. Some do, but, at his position, you want to be able to rush the passer. But I think that's going to get him on the field the quickest, is being able to stop the run and be able to anchor, the strong side of the formation down. With that being said, is he has an effective long arm. He's young, but the physical traits are there. His long arm, it was his go-to move in college, and I came away very impressed with how he used it. I haven't seen much of that specific move in training camp, but I will say Graham and Ogundeji's path to playing has to be, at first, stopping the run and being effective in those early down situations to, eventually graduate, I guess you could say, to that third down money. It's the money down, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and to the point about the long arm, I mean, both of those guys have extremely long arms, both over 35 inches, and something to monitor. I noted on Twitter, is that going to be a theme for the defensive line draft picks moving forward. And it
Cam
seems like
Jordan is very long. Marcus
Terry might have
Davenport.
extracted that from New Orleans. So,
Yeah.
and most of the guys they brought back had 33 3/4 inch arms or more. The only one is JTM that doesn't. He's got shorter arms. So again, length could be a priority for defensive line, and certainly Ogundeji uses his arms extremely well. I saw, you didn't see a lot of the clips from the NFL Network telecast, but one that definitely stood out was him going up against Jake Matthews, and he used, kind of a dip and rip move, and using your long arms there and beating getting to the edge on a quality competitor like Matthews. I mean, that opens up your eyes a bit. So again, he's going to be a guy that I'm watching all throughout, because I think he's got a real shot to earn some significant time on this defense. So we're getting towards the end here. 50 minutes went fast. Before we get DW out of here, I do want to, we talked a lot about preseason game upcoming, but I want to get kind of our number one thing we're looking to watch on Friday against the Titans, and don't say Julio Jones on the sidelines. Please. I know
He's not even going to stress.
I was waiting. I was going to say I can't wait to see Julio.
Yeah, I figured that was why you were smiling. Let's not say that as the answer, because let's be honest, that's the least thing I'm looking forward to. So Jake, we'll let you go last. DW, start us off. What are you looking forward to most from this first preseason game?
I don't think we're going to see a lot of starters. So it's the overall theme of the young guys. You mentioned it. I can't pick just one, because I'm interested in the role of all of these guys: Richie Grant, Ogundeji, even the guys like Javian Hawkins, Caleb Huntley, what they can do out there. So for me, it's all of these young guys, how much time they get, who they play against. Are they playing against the guys that are out there in the first quarter, or the guys out there in the fourth quarter? So yeah, for me, it's the potential future of this team. I'm going to be watching all the rookies and undrafted guys that we keep talking about.
Alex, what about you? Same thing?
Hard to argue with that, but I'll go a little bit more specific. I love Darren Hall, and I'm curious to see if he'll play a little corner and safety. This is going to come to fruition. I'm speaking it into existence that I think he can be a two-position starter sometime in his NFL career. Actually, the punt return competition.
Yeah, that's one that's not getting a lot.
Because Avery Williams was actually, I know it's the rookie thing, but he was listed behind Roland. So maybe that's something to watch specifically.
I didn't even, honestly, I totally forgot to look at the special teams.
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed in myself. Special teams definitely matters, guys. Don't get that
100%.
twisted.
We fence. That's what they call it.
Yeah, Chris Rowland's there. But again, I think you're right, Alex. I think that's a lot to do with the special team, or the rookie hardo, as you like to say, nature of our
business. He's being and I get it. It's the culture.
But it's a great change of pace. It's a great change of pace from what we've been accustomed to the last couple of years. So I'm here for it. All right, Jake, you've had some time to come up with a new answer.
I actually have two. I have two real answers.
All right.
The first one's going to be Kadri Olison, because apparently they had to teach him how to run. Because
that was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
That was weird.
That he drafts a running back that he had to teach how to run, and then just didn't teach him how to run. So that'll be great. And I mean, come on, I after E, except after C, Felipe Franks. Like this guy's gonna go. Like Felipe Franks is gonna go crazy. We're gonna be calling for AJ McCarron's backup job. The fans will be up in arms. He's going for 280 yards, 3 scores, no picks.
Let's remember though, it is Fabio Franks.
That's true. I also just unintentionally made a 28.
He has. I'll say this. He has a live arm. He can sing it.
Yeah.
I gave him the Blaine. I gave him the Blaine Gabbert comp, and I don't mean that as an insult, but they were the same quarterback coming out of college. The exact.
It's funny you say that, because Blaine Gabbert was that veteran backup that I was pounding the table for to sign, and they ended up going McCarron. But that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, certainly having a quarterback with that type of potential will make watching the fourth quarters maybe a little bit more palatable, I'd say, than past years. So that's a good one. For me, I'm kind of in lockstep with EW. It's the guys on the roster bubble. I think that's why you get invested in the preseason and the offseason, is those stock up, stock down reports. A couple guys we didn't note, but Chris Williamson has been a surprise name that's impressed. I think he's got a real shot to supplant maybe someone like Kendall Sheffield, who's now out dealing with an injury, which that's usually not a good thing, especially when your job is up for grabs. So watching him at corner, TJ Green's a guy. Alex again noted he was on his 53-man projection very early, and a guy who's impressed. He's been cross training at safety and corner, so I got my eyes on him. And then on offense, again, I think the running back battle, there's definitely a spot open, if not two spots open, behind Davis, Patterson, and Keith Smith. So that'll be interesting. And then, again, Parker Hesse, that's kind of my guy who I think if they are going to keep 4 tight ends, he spent the last 2 years in Tennessee. I think Smith brought him over for a reason. A guy that, again, a lot of people don't know, former defensive lineman, just very early to the position. So there's upside there. So guys like that, again, is always what I tune in for. So hopefully we get all that. Again, hopefully, Julio Jones has been dealing with, I guess, some injury, which I guess, surprise, that's no shock to us. Maybe he doesn't make the trip. That would make it sweet. I don't want to really see him on the sidelines in another uniform. But
you and your exes, man, you are just, you can't even be happy.
I don't really like him right now.
Sad for yourself.
Look, man,
was
hearing
fine
that
for
he
a
didn't
while.
even answer any of Arthur Blank's phone calls. He basically pulled a Michael Thomas, if we're being honest, not answering the.
When I spent the past 10 years of my life just being like, this guy, he's not like
it's going to take a while, Alex.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I don't get over breakups as quickly as you.
Well, when Aaron Rodgers wants out of town next year and he just plays for somebody
We'll
else,
be
you can feel the same way.
I will be sad, but my star receiver is happy.
No, he's not.
now he is. Now he is. Enjoy the last dance is all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Enjoy that last dance. But guys, it's been a lot of fun. DW, it's been great having you. Hopefully we can do this again. I appreciate all your time here. Let the people know where they can find you, what you got coming up on Falcoholic Podcast, falcoholic.com, all that great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at FalcoholicDW. The Falcoholic Podcast, we're really ramping up as the season gets closer and closer. And we've got our prediction series that keeps running over at the Falcoholic. And so far, based on the polls, our readers think that the Falcons will go undefeated in the first 8 games. I feel very confident that's not happening, but I love the optimism. I love the optimism. Thank you.
I'm actually surprised because my Twitter mentions are usually, a firestorm.
Well, DW, how are we going to go 17-0 if we don't start off 8-0? So.
I know, right? It's 17, 20-0, my friends. 20-0.
Oh, yeah. Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah. So check out all that, guys. Anything you want to plug over at Sports Talk ATL coming up?
Yeah, we got Falcons stuff pumping out too. I'll be giving my 53-man roster projection after each preseason game before the cuts happen, just so I can be a little ahead of the curve and not cheat at all. So that'll be coming out.
It's very honorable of you. It's very honorable.
I'll be live tweeting Hard Knocks tonight and talking about how much of a ham Dan Quinn is. So.
Ooh, tune in for that. That should be exciting.
Forgot about that.
All right, guys. Well, this has been a great show as always. For DW, Jake Gordon, Alex Lord, I'm Matt Carley. This has been Talking Birdie. Go Falcons.